elections
what
are done,
it sounds
the company
like.
is the country's
I
stolen
think
if
Daniel
we
wants to
don't.
add something.
Yeah, I want to expound on that. He's hit a good point, okay? And here's the point. As a result of what we're dealing with HAVA, laws are put in place to protect us from what he's talking about, right? Those laws, when they are put in place, it's a due process. It's a process issue. What's due process? It's fair process. Kind of due is where you get a fair process and then make sure that our individual rights are being protected. In this case, going back from the beginning, that didn't happen. And so even if what he's talking about didn't happen, the fact that law was violated, it makes everything illegal anyway. It's unlawful.
Before that.
Yeah, and so under Arizona State Constitution's Article 7, Section 7, it has to be lawful votes that can be counted. Well, you can't. Once those ballots go into those machines, because the law was violated, in the process, our due process, 14th Amendment, which is electoral due process, equal protection clause, that's important, folks. It is very important to understand that our government was formed to protect our individual rights. And so they put laws in place, hence HAVA Act was put in place to protect us from machines and foreign interference and so on. Hence the accreditation process. The accreditation process is to make sure there's no conflicts of interest, no foreign interference, and so on, and that is missing.
Now, these people who are doing these things, the fractional votes, any other tampering, who are these people? It's not necessarily the accreditation
But it's the
companies.
machines that are doing it.
But who is in charge? So the accreditation companies are getting away with something. They're breaking a law. They know they're not certified, accredited. They're not accredited. They understand they're just taking the money for the contract, and they understand they're not. But who gets them to do that? So they don't come in and say we're going to do it.
We can't speak upon that. What we can speak upon is the law itself.
Like
the
if
law being
people
violated.
want to take it up with somebody,
government for this.
who do you write the letter to? What board meeting do you show up at as a
So you
citizen
can
to
go
say, don't let this happen?
with what we've done. So, sorry,
You know what I mean?
I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
So what we've done is we've went to our legislative branch, our executive branch, and our judicial branch. We have done petitions, remonstrances. We have done writs of mandamuses, writs of quo wantos. We have done notices and affidavits. Okay, these are things that we have exercised. These are our constitutional rights. Okay. Now, in the process that we have done that, we have also added evidence that our government is not working on behalf of the people. They're violating our civil rights under the 14th Amendment, under the First Amendment, and also under U.S. Code 42, 1983 and 1985.
These are the notes I talked about.
And then also deprivation of rights under the color of law. That is very important for the people to understand. That is important because that holds our government officials, judges, representatives, police officers, nurses, even government officials who maybe lawyers who are acting on behalf of the government. If they violate our individual rights, they can be held accountable, and that's the important part.
Right.
We as a group we're trying to stay away from the fraud because it is about our rights. It's about our due process, and that's important. I would think to say. I mean, if you have anything to add on it,
Paul,
well,
please.
yeah, I think it's important for us to keep focus. So that really the focus of our efforts over the last year and a half has really been to focus on the statutory codified law, which was put in place, adopted by Arizona right after HAVA was put in place voluntarily as the law requires, because the federal government can't force the states. It's a state right to run their elections as they see fit. So what we have uncovered through our research and due diligence, and what we have filed in the 5 cases that we have in the Arizona Supreme Court, is about law. It's about statutory law, and that has to do with specifically ARS 16-442B, which effectively says that the machines that are used in the state have to be certified by an accredited lab, and that accreditation process, which we talked about, is supposed to occur at the federal level by the EAC, but it's the responsibility of the Secretary of State in our state to oversee and make sure she's supposed to check the checkers, right?
So Katie Hobbs.
That's right.
Is currently in office. She's, if you haven't been following, running for governor against Kari Lake. So she's already in a position of power, and that was kind of where I was going with the question. Whose shoulders does it lie on ultimately for the people to know you can't do what they're doing necessarily. A lot of people can't, but you can do something at the ballot box, and that's coming up. So that's kind of what
we wanted to not get
well.
into the fraud because there has been
yeah.
so much information about that, and it's very controversial. And
Right.
what we wanted to do is really highlight what Daniel said is were the laws followed and were the people's due process adhered to. And
Right.
as we describe what we've been through, what we can demonstrate is that what we've experienced, everyone has experienced now, because
Yes.
we've been violated in terms of our due process rights to just get heard by the courts,
Right.
to have our legislators listen to us.
And you've been
so
very
that we have
successful in
we have a
keeping
voice.
your petitions in court alive, where I don't think anybody else has been that successful in Arizona to be able to keep something in front of the courts. Is that true?
Well, we've had to refile.
We've had to
Okay.
refile and refile. But like I said, by doing that, we have made a long list of grievances and evidence of violations of what we believe is our civil rights under electoral due process. Another thing you mentioned, Katie Hobbs. So Katie Hobbs is not the only one. She oversees the election in the state, but the counties actually have power.
Okay.
They do have the power. We're addressing the counties currently. We have talked to the Board of Supervisors for Pima and Pinal already. We're talking in the background with others. We're getting them and showing them where they have the power to do something. They don't have to go and use these machines. They can decide themselves, hey, I'm not using the machines. Because even within the state, the counties have their own sovereignty in the sense of this and making sure they do what the people want.
And so there's a movement, I don't know if you know, right now, that is going around for a petition. We're going to put a link up later because I don't want to misquote the site, but it is exactly for that, where they have organized pages where you can sign. You can immediately get the entire list of all the Board of County Supervisors, all the names, all their numbers, all their emails. You can immediately send them a letter that has been pre-done for you asking them to not use the machines, so they're hearing directly from the people. And it's something you can do it takes like 5 minutes. So we're going to put that link up. So to their point, for us, we need to get involved on the level we can, which would be to write, call, and tell our county officials what we do and don't want. And I look at it from not a fraud side. Those of us who work the election, we'd not call it fraud. We saw process inappropriateness all over the place. It was a procedural issue here or there, but those added up to big problems. So fraud is a word that we don't use either, just so you know. It has nothing to do with anything. It's a process and illegality issue of our statutes in our state. So let's talk about, Brian, some of the things that we touched on earlier. It's a little bit data driven. There's a lot of information. Wayback Machines, I mentioned with you earlier off camera, and what we're looking for with the certifications. Like, what do people need to know in those areas?
Well, first off, let's talk about Katie Hobbs' basic responsibility, which was to check to see if they actually had, the labs actually were accredited or not. That was her diligence.
So that falls on her.
That falls on her. I don't expect the counties to fall on that at all. They're just looking to see if the machines are certified.
Okay.
So it's Katie Hobbs' job to make sure that the labs are accredited.
So
it's
she
just
said
a
they
simple
were.
certificate. It's just a simple certificate of accreditation. And so one being that they've been expired for a long time. And then part of that is really the cover-up that took place after that. So you have Pro V&V, which expired in 2017, and then SLI really didn't even have a document, a certification up until there was an affidavit that was put in December. And then after that affidavit that was put out in December, then we had a certificate go up on the website, which is the EAC, of 2020.
So when she's looking at the certificates that they're accredited, what is she looking at? Falsified documents, or just reporting them being truthful and they were not?
I don't know what she was looking at. My guess is she didn't look at all.
So Michael, what do you have to provide to somebody?
There's a certificate that a lab would have showing that it's accredited, and entities that we work on a regular basis will often check that. We have it published on our website, as they are required to have. And so anyone who wants to work with us can look, confirm, okay, they have the right proper accreditation and it's not expired. And if I was to be asked to accredit something, to certify something, a product, I would have to disclose, I'm sorry, our accreditation is not up to date. I don't have the authority to certify your device.
And that goes under your liability
Yeah, so
as a vendor.
the
yeah.
labs have a requirement to be ethical and honest about this accreditation. There's a great deal in the EAC about ethics and honesty. I mean, pages of that is stated as a requirement. And so if I lie about my accreditation being expired, I mean, that just flies in the face of the requirements of EAC.
So in the EAC actually they were doing a really good job for a long time of putting up, because they're supposed to put it up on their website.
Okay.
Of all the certificates, they're supposed to have letter of agreements, letter of intent, their financials. They don't put everything up there, but they're supposed to have a package that they're supposed to put up on their website. And then all of a sudden they stopped. And so some of the excuses that they came up with was just poor administrative process
Workers,
or whatever.
Like they didn't have people to do
But
that.
then we'll have a letter that they put out that says that their staff was fully staffed and that how great of a job they did. Another excuse that they gave was COVID. So
that was a big one.
that was a big one, and so
People
we're
still
looking
use
at it
that.
as like, well, I guess these labs actually got COVID before everybody else did, because how could they stop at 2017, and then this other document for SLI shows up after the affidavit because it wasn't there before, and then they go and back certify
After 2020 election.
after the 2020 election.
Yeah.
They go in January.
And they being
they being EAC.
okay.
And so they put in you're only supposed to have accreditation for 2 years, and then it sunsets, it goes away.
All
And then
right.
they have to go and put back that package, that financial, to see if there's any conflicts.
I'm sure.
And
Like
so
most
forth.
Licensed.
Right.
Yeah,
It's a normal
professionals.
accreditation process. It's
Sure.
been going on in 2-year increments for a long,
So
long time.
here we have SLI that they want to try to extend it to 3 years because they want to make sure that it covers the 2020 election. And well, that's not.
Like grandfathered
that's not
in,
lawful.
so to speak.
That's not
Like
lawful.
you're
You
just,
can't.
You've got it, so you just
not
keep getting
grandfathered
it.
in
But
either.
that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to make it so that, well, we have 2, just give us the third, so 2020, it was a
Right.
dead year, we'll just
So the interesting
override
thing
that
though
too.
is that the person that granted that 3-year, that extra year extension, well, he had left the EAC.
That's handy.
Yeah. So somehow he was able to make a 3-year document after he left.
Early retirement, I suppose, due to
I don't
COVID.
know.
If I
So,
had to
but that's
guess.
just another thing that is off, and
Right.
so our group, amongst many people in the nation, have been using the Wayback Machine to record every time they change things. We have original copies.
So so the Wayback Machine is a physical,
It's just one method of
It's an extension that you
documenting-
put on your
yeah.
computer
okay.
that allows you to save something in time, a page with its links and stuff, so you can go back and we can go back and look at all EAC's minutes and to see if they've changed their minutes.
And how do you get access
You
to
get
that?
you get a date stamp
Like,
on the
is
original.
that through a company or is this a personal?
It's a
for somebody?
software program that you
okay,
apply
thank
to
you, thank you.
your browser, and so
Sorry.
that that's
IT
okay.
is not my thing. I was thinking old school physical machine. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, like.
No,
it's
so
not my thing.
there's like
So
a daily
thanks for-
thing that I
yeah.
go in and I save certain pages all the time, or a weekly thing that I go and save. And other people do that throughout the country, and we're kind of helping each other in preserving this information. And so, those are some of the things that they've changed. And so now the latest thing that they've done is they've changed their manual. The EAC changed their manual, so now it's 3.0. And so now they've applied a new accreditations to where it basically says these labs never lose accreditation.